money fast on this side, nigga. Catch up,
Maybach
catch
music.
up. I think I'm Big Meech.
Hi everybody, this is Nyandia with hiphopabc.org. I'm here with Mrs Shalhoup, the author of BMF, The Rise and Fall of Big Meech and the Black Mafia Family. She's also the editor at the Creative Loafing here in Atlanta. Hey Mara.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm great.
Let's talk a little bit about you and your history in journalism. I understand that you were a crime reporter in Macon, Georgia.
Yeah, that was my first job out of college. I worked there for a couple of years and dug into a bunch of really intense court cases, death penalty trials, and just had a real love of crime reporting, and it was really, really helpful experience.
Oh, really interesting.
Yeah.
So is that kind of where the need to write a book like this comes from?
Yeah, it might have been the early seeds were planted
the
then.
beginning of that.
For
Oh,
sure.
okay. So then you got to Atlanta. How did that transition happen from Macon to Atlanta with Creative Loafing? I understand you've been with them for about 10 years now.
Yeah, it was back in 2000, and I grew up in Atlanta, not originally from Atlanta, but had been here since I was like 12. Up in the burbs.
Oh.
I had gone off to school, went to Macon for a couple years. I was really excited to come back to Atlanta. I have a real love for this city.
Yeah.
And I was very, very excited to work for Creative Loafing, which is the job I got, which brought me to Atlanta. I'd read the paper and been a fan of it since I was a kid. So yeah, it was a great thing. And I came on as a news writer. So
awesome. News writer all the way to editor.
Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. How long have you been the editor?
Just a few months.
Oh yeah,
Congratulations.
congratulations.
Thank you. That's great.
And then you have time to write a book.
Somewhere in there.
There. Yes. Okay, so tell us a little bit about the initial article that you wrote for Creative Loafing. I understand that you wrote an article a few years ago that was the beginning or the birth of this book right here. For those who don't know and those who are not in Atlanta, tell them a little bit about that article and what all came out of that.
Sure, yeah, I had actually heard about BMF. It was like 2003. There was a pretty high-profile shooting behind a club called Chaos, which was in Buckhead, which was the central party zone in Atlanta back then. Totally different now. But yeah, so there was a shooting. One of the victims, there was two victims. One was the former bodyguard for Sean Combs. So that kind of created a lot of interest in the case. And it was also his friend who were shot. There was a big shootout, like 40 rounds fired. Big,
wow.
Yeah, crazy thing, late night behind the club. Meech, Demetrius, Flenory, was charged with, he was arrested, I should say, for the crime, but the evidence didn't roll in.
Oh, okay.
No indictment ever came, so like, you know, but that basically piqued my interest. And because it was reported as Big Meech who runs BMF.
So then you write the article, and what happens?
Well, the article came like really 3 years later after that. So there was a couple things that happened in between. There was another shooting behind another club, the Velvet Room, also on Peachtree in Midtown, further down. So last night the Velvet Room was open, not to be confused. There's another club called the Velvet Room now, not that club. This was the other club. And the victim in that case was a guy named Prince, and I had talked to Prince's mother about the case, and that case didn't get a lot of publicity, and nobody was linking BMF to that, but I was able to pretty much nail down that BMF was at least believed to have been involved. So then that kind of, then from that point I started digging into a lot of different court cases. And maybe 2 years into that research, or maybe a year, it was about a year into that research, Big Meech and his brother Terry, who were believed to be the kingpins of BMF at that time, were indicted. A big like federal case up in Detroit. So then I had access to a lot more stuff. So the article came out a year after that, so 2006, late 06. It was a 3-part series, really dug into a lot of the myths surrounding BMF and piecing together a lot of different court files and all that good stuff.
Awesome.